Welcome back to Dynamics. Okay, so I didn't get a chance to do the a pre-video, so a video before SummerSlam giving my predictions. I went out of town for a concert. I am doing a video that's going to do a review of that concert. It was great, but I'll do a little bit more in depth. It'll be a short one, but a little bit more in depth about the concert I went to, which caused me to not do the predictions video for SummerSlam. But let's just go ahead and just talk about the results of this show. Overall, I think they did a great job. This isn't quite full Triple H completely controlling the show, but you could see that he had some impact. He made some changes that probably weren't on the show when Vince McMahon was prior to Vince McMahon retiring. But you can definitely see that the show is going in a better direction. It seems like the superstars are already having more fun. The announcers were definitely having more fun, having a good time, not having to announce the show with Vince McMahon in their ears. Not to bash on Vince McMahon, but he really he was outdated, and it was time to move on. And it's good that he retired, and we thank him for everything he's done. But this show is just the first taste of WWE moving in a positive direction, I do believe. Okay, so let's talk about the results, though. The first match, they jumped right off into Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. By the way, we are doing spoilers if you couldn't tell. I mean, this is a results video, but we will be doing spoilers. So if you haven't watched the SummerSlam yet, go ahead and watch it before watching this video. But let's go right into the results, which obviously includes spoilers if you haven't watched it. Okay, so Bianca Belair started wrestling Becky Lynch, and of course they always have a great match. They really do. They have good chemistry. They're both talented performers, both in their wrestling capabilities and the stories they're able to tell. It just works, and I could watch this match a bunch of times. But I also am, over the WWE style of just having the same match happen over and over again. I'm over that. And so there was a definitive winner at the end of this match. Bianca Belair won the match. Becky Lynch lost the match. Bianca Belair is still our Raw Women's Champion. And they are not going to continue on that story. In fact, after the match, we had the return of Bayley, and she was joined by Dakota Kai and Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky, which that's cool. I think that works for the main roster. That might have been in effect before Vince McMahon left, because he really did love changing their names. But Dakota Kai, maybe not. Because Dakota Kai kept the same name. I know that Triple H was really big on her, and I don't know that Vince would have been. So this may have been our first taste of a change. There may have been some of this that was the same and some of this that wasn't. In fact, I read somewhere that what happens next was not approved by Vince. So Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky come down to the ring. They're getting on into the ring to challenge Bianca Belair. It's 3-on-1. It looks like they're going to start beating her up, and then Becky Lynch jumps into the ring and sides with Bianca Belair. So it looks like we're getting Becky back as a good guy, as a face, which works. I think that is great. That did need to happen, because I really just never felt like the bad guy character worked as well. Also, you can't have her wrestling Bianca Belair over and over again, and if she is the top bad guy, the top heel, then you would need to keep having her in that picture, and it just kind of gets old and stale. So Becky Lynch is now reverted back to, well, it seems, it could, things could change, or she could be kind of more not just a straight bad guy, good guy style character, which I know that Triple H is fond of that, so that is a distinct possibility that she decided to side with Bianca Belair because of the respect for what happened during the match. but that doesn't mean necessarily that she's always going to be, goody two shoes and having a good, being the good guy all the time. But either way, as it ended, the bad guys ran away, and Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair stood together. So I liked that. The match was great. The story was good. Looks like we're moving in a direction. We've got Bayley coming back. We haven't had her in a while. That's great. She is she's actually really good as a bad guy, even though I know for a long time she was the epitome of a baby face. But I think she's good as a bad guy. Having some sidekicks is going to kick that up a notch. Getting Dakota Kai and Io Sky out there on the main roster, great stuff. Happy all around for that. Next match, Logan Paul versus The Miz. Right off the bat, the results: Logan Paul defeated The Miz, ended up defeating The Miz with the skull crushing finale, used his own move against him. And so this is what I'm going to say. Logan Paul proved me wrong in that he's really good, especially considering he probably hasn't been training for that long. Probably longer than we think, though, because he is too good to be someone who really has only trained like a couple of times over the last 6 months, right? And so I think that he's been training for a lot longer than that. I do believe The Miz has helped train him. I believe he's also probably been working in the NXT in the Full Sail University or wherever. He may have had someone come out to his house and train him, because he's rich. He can have his own private training. And that's great. He's taken it seriously. It looks like he signed a real contract with the WWE. I don't know that he'll be a full-time wrestler, as in he's wrestling every Monday Night Raw or every SmackDown. But they'll bring him out a couple of times a year for pay-per-views, and he's good enough that it probably won't get stale for a while. We'll see. His personality, he would probably be better as a bad guy, but he really did kind of win us over as a good guy because everybody was just so surprised by how good he was. So maybe he's won us over. Let's give that a chance. Even though Logan Paul as an individual is not always the nicest person in the world, and so I think people just know too much about that. But I think that's a character too, really. Even his social media presence is kind of like a character, right? So let's see how it works out. The only negative I have about Logan Paul is, he doesn't have his own style yet. He's learning moves from all the wrestlers he's working with. That's great. But when your finisher is to finish someone with their own move, that could get old. And I hope he evolves from that. But it was fun to take The Miz out with his own move because The Miz is a jerk and blah, 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 right? We had some interference from Tommaso Ciampa. I hope that he splits from The Miz here shortly and he gets a strong push of his own. Triple H in charge, that's almost a guarantee. So it's not really a stretch to say that. But he got kicked out of ringside. He wouldn't leave. And then so AJ Styles came out, and AJ Styles and Tommaso Ciampa brawled and ended up, that's how he got taken out of the match, and Logan Paul got to go straight up with The Miz, other than some Maurice interference throughout the match. I would love to see a story where AJ Styles and Tommaso Ciampa have a feud going forward. That'd be great. But I also could see him playing a good guy, switching, turning on The Miz, becoming a good guy, a baby face. But as a bad guy, I think he works really well on the main roster. So having him go against AJ Styles as the bad guy would be great. Logan Paul can take a step back. He doesn't have to be on Raw every week, but we'll see. Maybe that is the plan. Maybe he is going to wrestle a lot more. He seems to have loved it from his posts and, just interviews. It seems like he has the bug and that maybe this is his direction moving forward. Because he is not as good of a boxer as his brother. Although he did okay in his boxing matches. I mean, he boxed Floyd Mayweather in a kind of a fake match. We'll just leave it at that. And so maybe he'll give up the boxing and just focus on the wrestling, or maybe he signed a contract where he can keep doing it all. Who knows? But we'll move on from that match to the Bobby Lashley versus Theory match. And, I mean, it was almost a squash match. I mean, Bobby Lashley handedly beat him again. So it's kind of interesting. That's good for Bobby Lashley. He should be the United States champion. He should be dominant. That's good for his character. I don't know what exactly is happening with Theory. I don't know if it is true, that he was a Vince McMahon guy, and they're just not going to run with him under Triple H. But Triple H brought him in, so I would imagine that Triple H is probably a fan of his too. He does have potential, but maybe they're thinking maybe a little bit slow it down a little bit, because they were pushing him a little bit too fast, I think. And so, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but he did try to cash in at the end of the pay-per-view, and he didn't cash in. So we'll go into more detail when I talk about the main event. But he still is the Money in the Bank. He still has the Money in the Bank briefcase. Let's have him hold that for pretty much a year. Have him hold it all the way up to close to WrestleMania. I don't think he should cash it in at WrestleMania, and I don't think he should be the champion going into WrestleMania. So if he's going to win when he cashes it in, maybe don't hold it off that long, because he's going to win, and then he needs to lose the title again at some point, so that, the main event at WrestleMania doesn't have Theory in it. But maybe they do want him to be the main event. But either way, I don't think they should rush the cash in. Have him keep trying and failing to cash it in, and he doesn't actually cash it in, so he doesn't lose it. And build him up a little bit more. He doesn't need to be losing every single match like he's been losing. And, have him win some matches, and maybe even get a chance to challenge for the title without having to use his briefcase, so he can lose that and, not lose his briefcase. Have him hold on to the briefcase for a while. I think it's good for his character. But yeah, so Bobby Lashley beat him pretty handedly. Bobby Lashley will move on to another program, I would imagine. I hope. I don't want to see Bobby Lashley versus Theory again. Bobby Lashley could... Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of it, where everybody goes from here. How about I do that? Because then I don't want to jump the gun on some of these other matches. Okay, next match. The Mysterios the Mysterios did defeat Finn Balor and Damian Priest. They were not going to. This was a Finn Balor, Damian Priest dominating match, as it should have been. I honestly believe that those two as a team, I think they should still both be individual wrestlers, but as a team. They shouldn't be a tag team, but they could be, and they would be a very good tag team if that's what they decided to do. If Triple H decides to make the tag team division strong again, I could definitely see Finn Balor and Damian Priest being a part of that roster of tag teams. But that's not really what I want for Judgment Day, and I don't think that's what's going to end up happening, because during the match, Edge returned. So Edge returns during the match, helps the Mysterios, but more he beats up Finn Balor and Damian Priest so that the Mysterios can win. The Mysterios win. Edge returns. Edge will probably be feuding with Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and I think what it should be is Edge wrestles Finn Balor sometimes. Edge wrestles Damian Priest sometimes. Edge doesn't really need a partner in this. That's why I don't think that they should be a tag team per se. But, maybe after this is all said and done, we can talk about if they do decide to make it tag team, who's Edge's partner? We'll think about that. All right, moving on, because it's not the Mysterios. It's not going to be all three of them, because unless Judgment Day gets a third member, but then we have the Mysterios and Judgment Day still interacting, and I want to move on from these stories. All of these stories, I'm pretty sure, we'll look into it a little bit more. All of these stories that had a finish to their match should be done. And we move on to new stories, and let's let's see where WWE goes from here under Triple H with new stories. Anyways, okay. Then we have Pat McAfee. McAfee. Why? I think I'm pronouncing things weird today. I don't know why. Anyways, Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin. Pat wins with a kick to the nuts because he's a punter and he punts him in the nuts and he won the match. There was a good build up to that, but that's basically the gist of what happened. But on SmackDown, Happy Corbin kicked Pat McAfee. Why? Well, I can't talk. Anyways, Happy Corbin did it to Pat McAfee during SmackDown, so it's kind of like he doesn't lose that babyface draw by kicking him in the nuts, because it's kind of like a retribution, revenge for it happening to him. But let's end this story too. Let's move on from this story. Happy Corbin. God, I wish they would get rid of that Happy. I hate it. I hate it so much. Just call him Corbin. Just call him, well, no, Corbin Bernstein. Corbin? Anyways, let's move on from this story, though. Pat can go back to just announcing. We'll let him have another wrestling match, either at Survivor Series, have him be at the big events, or, have him enter the Royal Rumble or something, But he doesn't need to be wrestling every other pay-per-view. So let's just, Pat is going to be done wrestling. Happy Corbin will move on. He'll have a feud. Let him have a feud with somebody else. We'll talk about it. Okay, so the Usos versus the Street Profits, and the Usos definitively beat the Street Profits. They, there was a little bit of shenanigans, but not really. It was pretty clean. The Street Profits just lost, and I don't like seeing teams get split up, especially if we're trying to strengthen the tag team division. The Street Profits are one of the best tag teams on the roster, but in this situation, you can build the tag team division around other teams, let the Street Profits move on from being a tag team. Maybe don't even have them turn against each other. It's kind of like the New Day. They can still be friends, but say, you know what? Hey, I think it's time that I'm going to try a singles run, and you try a singles run, and let's see how we do, right? But you could also have one of them turn on the other one, and feud against each other like they always do. In this situation, I think it works. I think you make wow, why did his name pop out of my head? Yeah, okay. Not Dawkins. He's so good too, and his name just popped right out of my head. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and get it. Get a little more detail there. I feel bad because he's so good. Montez Ford. So that's embarrassing because I really like him. But his name just popped out of my head. And sometimes you'll know when I do these videos, you'll know these names will pop out of my head sometimes. So it just happens. But Montez Ford is the bigger star. But that's actually part of the storyline, right? Because Angelo Dawkins isn't terrible. He just doesn't have the look. He doesn't have as much charisma, although he's still got a lot of charisma. He just doesn't. He's not in as good a shape, and he can't quite pull off the moveset that Montez Ford can. Montez is just a crazy athlete. So I think Montez Ford is the one, as they're kind of, seems to be the direction they're moving in. He's going to get a singles push. He's going to be a champion. Angelo Dawkins can be a decent singles wrestler, or you team him up with somebody else. But you don't necessarily need them turning against each other. But if you do, I think that Angelo Dawkins is the bad guy. I think he could play the he turns on Montez, because I think a lot of people think Montez Ford is going to turn on him, but I think it's the other way around. I think Angelo Dawkins turns on Montez Ford, is like, I can do this. I can be a singles wrestler. Everybody's talking about you, but I'm just as good, if not better. That sort of thing. Anyways, but yeah, I think maybe it is time for them to separate and give that a try. But it doesn't have to be where they turn on each other. Jimmy and Jay are going to be tag team forever. Jay does good stuff on his own. Jimmy not so much, but Jay, can be a singles wrestler. He has shown that. But those guys should be a tag team. They stick with Roman Reigns. They continue to be a tag team. They have to lose eventually, but they're the champions, and we want to see them continue forward as the pinnacle of that new tag team division. Jeff Jarrett was in the match. He was the ref. That was weird, wasn't it? Like, kind of weird that he was the ref they chose. But I think just because where they were, I think that's why they chose him. But yeah. Anyways, he didn't really cause any problems, and he counted the pin, and he was fine. He did okay in his role in the match. All right, but it was a great match. Great match. I don't think I've said that yet. It was a great match. They did a good job, and I look forward to seeing what they all do moving forward. Then we get Riddle running into the ring, calling out Seth Rollins. They don't get to have a match because Riddle's injured, but not really. I think it's storyline injured. But Seth Rollins comes in, stomps him again, and Riddle looks weak. Seth Rollins looks strong, but it's just. I don't think that's what people were hoping they were going to do. Since they took the match off the pay-per-view, I think they were really hoping that someone was going to come out and Seth, like Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, was going to get to wrestle someone who was returning or a new wrestler, maybe from NXT. Should have been someone he could beat so that, he doesn't keep losing. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have some sort of surprise here. And this just didn't work for me. I feel like they should have just had the match then if they were going to do this, because it didn't take that much less time to do this than to have a match. But they're going to have their match in the UK for some reason. That's what they want to do. But either way, Riddle's probably going to lose that match, and it's just like, okay, why are you doing this? I think Riddle's a strong wrestler, a strong character, and just to keep having this happen is kind of annoying. So this was probably my low point of the pay-per-view. I'm very disappointed with what they did there. Then we have Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey. This was interesting. What they did was they had Ronda Rousey dominantly beating Liv Morgan throughout the match. Ends up putting her in the armbar yet again, one more time. Liv Morgan goes to try to escape it. It doesn't really. She can't get out. But when she does that, she gets Ronda Rousey in a position where she's in a pinning position. So the ref starts counting the pin, and then Liv Morgan taps out, and Ronda Rousey gets pinned. So what happened was Liv Morgan should have lost because she tapped out before the pin was completed. Ref was focused on the pin. Says Ronda Rousey lost. Gives the title to Liv. Ronda Rousey then beats up Liv Morgan, beats up the ref, freaks out, and is upset because, she won the match and she's not the champion. I think they might be writing Ronda Rousey off, let her take a step away from wrestling for a while again. And so they're leaving the title on Liv, but Liv doesn't look super strong this way. So we'll see. Maybe that's not what they're doing. Maybe they want to get one more match out of them because, the first one wasn't really a match. Ronda Rousey loses this one technically, so they'll get a final definitive match in the UK when they have their match. That may be what they're having. In that case, Ronda Rousey should win, become champion again, and move forward. Liv Morgan is good, and if they do have Ronda Rousey go off, then Liv Morgan should hold the title for a while. But if they're going to keep Ronda Rousey around and they're going to have them rematch, Ronda has to win. And so it's kind of rough. So better than the Riddle and Seth scenario, but not super happy with how this played out. Then we get the final match, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Brought me back into the show. They did a great job with a lot of the spots, but it was really messy. And not just like all the spots and the debris that was everywhere. There was tables shattered everywhere and stuff broken, and looked like they were falling on stuff, and that it was hurting them, like tables and chairs and stuff like that. So, and then there was some like really sloppy wrestling by Brock. It seemed like Brock was trying to like throw Roman Reigns around. It just didn't really work sometimes. I don't know if he was injured and it just wasn't working, but it seemed like he got sloppy and did some things that could have legitimately hurt Roman. And there was this whole spot with this tractor, and the whole time I'm thinking like he didn't put the tractor in the right spot, because then they couldn't use that part of the ring because the excavator part of the tractor was poking into the ring. I felt like it should have been outside of the ring, like where he still could have jumped into the ring, but because he used it to jump into the ring at the beginning of the match. But then he left it in a way where they basically, if they had bounced off the rope on that side, they may have hit their head. I'm not sure if it was low enough to do that. It just felt like they were working around that, so that I did think that would happen. There was a couple of spots where I thought they were going to hit their heads when Brock was doing some suplexes. It just, I don't know. I didn't really like the tractor during that part of the match. Later, it did some fun stuff, but I didn't really like that. It was kind of sloppy, but fun. And you really didn't know for sure who was going to win this match. It was back and forth, and they easily could have had Brock win this match. But in the end, Roman Reigns did win the match. At one point, Theory does run down to try to cash in, and he gets beat up and isn't able to cash in. And so that was probably the right call. Let him keep the Money in the Bank briefcase and have have him continue moving forward. He wasn't able to cash in. Roman Reigns is the champion moving forward. I think he drops it to Drew McIntyre in the UK show, but we'll see. Brock Lesnar, he'll probably walk off into the sunset at this point. I think he is probably done, especially with Vince not there. Maybe we'll get him back at some point down the line, but he went out on his back as you should. And he's done it before, when he lost to Drew McIntyre, he was gone for quite a while, until they needed him to come back. But I think in this new regime, there won't be that need, because they will build stars that if someone gets injured, if a Roman Reigns gets injured, there's other wrestlers that can take his spot. They don't need to call Brock back. So while I don't think that's Brock Lesnar's last match, I don't think we'll see him for a while. I could be completely wrong. They could keep Brock Lesnar around, have him wrestle other big wrestlers, have him and Bobby Lashley, reconnect. Although they're both portraying good guys at this point, so that would kind of be awkward. But it would be fun, right? You could have him wrestle some of the other big guys, but really, he should probably just walk off into the sunset and take some time off, at least until WrestleMania season. Maybe bring him back for that. We'll see. Okay, so where do we go moving forward? We have Triple H running things, so we know that they're going to do, a focus on some of his guys and girls from NXT. So, going back to the first match, that's pretty easy to call. It looks like Bayley versus Bianca Belair is the next feud. Looks like Bianca will have some backup from Becky Lynch. Bayley will have some backup from Dakota Kai and Io Sky. And so maybe Bianca will get a third, but you don't necessarily need a third when your two are Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. So we'll see. I think Logan Paul should take a step back, not wrestle for a little bit, so he won't need to do anything until we need him for another big match, or need him for another pay-per-view coming up. The Miz has looked really weak for a while, and so maybe have him feud with either Tommaso Ciampa because they split them up, or have him move on and try to, build up another one of the new people, and he can, he'll win, but like you can bring in someone and have them, have some good matches with. Unless they want to turn him again, which I don't think works. I think leave him as the bad guy, have him do his shows, make him like stick his nose into things, rub Theory the wrong way, maybe go after Bobby Lashley. I mean, he's that kind of heel where he can kind of pull that off. Have him, who's the other champion? Right now it's Walter. Oh, no, can't have him wrestle Walter. Speaking of that, where was Walter during this match? I was scrolling through the Peacock, the WWE network that's on Peacock now, and seeing some, of the old pay-per-views from the feeder wrestling promotions that WWE had. And so Walter used to wrestle for this other promotion, and he was, back then he weighed more. Obviously he's cut weight, since he's come to the main roster, and he looked a lot younger. I don't know how young he was in this picture, but he looked a lot younger. In fact, he looked, I don't know if anybody else has ever seen this or thought this, but he looked like a big Dominic Mysterio. I just laughed. I thought it was funny when I saw that. Anyways, that guy's awesome. Why wasn't he on the show? We need to see some more from him. The Miz versus him is probably not a good match. I'm trying to think who, like Montez Ford, when he splits off, if he doesn't actually go up against his partner, have that be a feud to build up Montez Ford, something like that. Or let's see, who else do we have here that needs something to do? Well, no one on this show. Yeah, they're going to have to find something new for him to do, completely new. All right, Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley needs a feud with somebody who's going to push his wrestling capabilities and, carry a lot of the back and forth on the mic. Who could we see him? It would be nice if it was champion versus champion. Him versus Walter would be fun. But maybe he could. No, I'm trying to see. Like, I don't see him wrestling anybody that was on SummerSlam either. I guess if they keep Brock around, that would be fun. I guess he doesn't fit into the fight with Edge versus the Judgment Day. The Mysterios and him really don't work out together. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to give that some more thought. Theory just needs to run all over the place. He needs to annoy people in everything. He shouldn't have a championship, but he should come out and annoy people and keep flitting around the main event scene. And if it looks like what's going to happen is Roman Reigns is going to go and lose to Drew McIntyre, and then Drew McIntyre will have a main feud, but will also have to deal with Theory, pestering him. So that's probably what I see happening there. Okay. The Mysterios need to move on. They can continue being a tag team. They're not at the level where they should be wrestling the Usos, but they should be wrestling another tag team and try to either build themselves up as contenders to the Usos, or as build another team up as contenders for the Usos. That's what I see the Mysterios doing. I don't see Dominic turning on his dad. I think that story has that they've missed the boat on that. That's just not going to work. So keep them as a tag team. Let Dominic continue to improve because he needs it. That's one of our tag teams for the tag team division moving forward. All right. Finn Balor, Damian Priest. I see them feuding with Edge. Edge may get a second. Who could be Edge's second? Yeah, like I was saying, I don't see Bobby Lashley fitting in that role, but he technically could. I'm not seeing anybody else from the, Okay, so since I keep running into this. Let's talk about these other wrestlers who were not on SummerSlam, because there was plenty. I mean, other than Riddle and Seth Rollins. AJ Styles made an appearance, but he wasn't wrestling anybody, so I could see him teaming up with Edge. That's a possibility. Who else were we missing? We were missing a ton of people. Let me see here. Let's go through the superstars section of the website. Well, how long is this video so far? 35 minutes. No one's watching this shit. Okay, well, we'll just keep going then. It's already super long. Let's see here. That's interesting. At the top of the superstars page, I see Big E, who obviously can't wrestle right now. Mandy Rose, which I guess is one of the big, wrestlers on NXT. I don't see them calling her up yet, but at some point. I see Alexa Bliss, which we will get to. Finn Balor, obviously, a great wrestler. Sami Zayn wasn't on the show, and that's kind of interesting to me because he was part of the Bloodline storyline, but he didn't play a role in that match at all. So we're going to see something from Sami Zayn, and it may be becoming a full-fledged member, or it may be him feuding with the Bloodline if they don't accept him as a member. So we'll see. Then I see Liv Morgan, and then I see, what's his name? It's something Dracoff or whatever his name is. But he's from NXT UK, and he's injured right now. So, yeah. All right. Charlotte, she wasn't on there. She'll probably be making a comeback here soon. I think people are coming home though, so let's wrap this up. All right. So I see Liv Morgan either wrestling Ronda Rousey at the UK show or moving on. Either wrestling Ronda Rousey at the UK show or moving on to a new feud, and that can either be with Charlotte Flair, which would be boring, or it could be with Alexa Bliss, which would be exciting. Ronda Rousey either sticks around and defeats Liv Morgan, and then she has one of those feuds, or she takes a step back and steps away from wrestling for a little while. And then Riddle and Seth Rollins are going to wrestle each other. Seth Rollins is going to beat Riddle in UK and move on to other stuff. Riddle will move on to something else. Maybe Riddle can, wrestle one of the other guys that we've talked about so far, but that's going to be after the UK show. The Usos need a new contender, a new championship contender. I don't think the Mysterios are ready. So, one of the other teams, obviously not the New Day. They just got beat up by the Viking Raiders, but maybe the Viking Raiders, maybe that would work. And then, but probably not. I don't think they're ready. They'll be another team. And then Roman Reigns will go on to, I think, lose to Drew McIntyre at the next event. Brock Lesnar will step away from wrestling for a while, and then we'll see Drew McIntyre go on to feud with some of these other guys that are on the roster. There's tons of other wrestlers that weren't on the event, but I want to end the video here because there's a lot of stuff going on around me. And so I will do another video talking about where I think they move forward with the wrestlers who were not on SummerSlam. And yeah, all right, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this really long video that I didn't expect to be this long. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good day.